I wanted to, I've got a question.
Okay.
And maybe starting with Kate, thinking about the process of your collaboration and how you came to make these wonderful series of poems and photographs, and specifically, so you went out into the nighttime world and took these photographs, and I wondered how much you were kind of felt to be like an observer of that world, kind of separate from people, or did you get into conversations and dialogues and kind of feel like you were part of that? And then there's also a question to Steve, how did you respond to Kate's kind of embedded, or being in the community in the nighttime, or economy, because the nighttime community?
Sure. I mean, it's quite interesting. I think, I think I've kind of approached this completely as an observer, but I think it was in terms of the experience that informed what the creation of this was the fact of a mutual experience that Steve and I had having both worked within the nighttime economy, and just, you know, there's many anecdotal stories that we shared, but it was very much, there's a different experience you have being part of it and enjoying it as you do actually working within it. So to that extent, it didn't feel too different actually going out and kind of photographing within it. It felt very familiar, but it kind of, you know, I think I enjoyed the process a lot more. I think just in terms of maybe going out with the camera, it kind of gives you a bit more, I don't want to say like I can't think of the word, almost like entitlement to kind of go out and photograph it. It's the wrong word, but if you know what I mean. So that's quite interesting to kind of observe and be a part of. But also, I think it kind of opens your eyes to so many other things that are going on that you're not aware of. And just trying to retain that distance as well as just accurately record it, I think.
And you said that you shared anecdotes with each other about some of the photographs.
Well, for me, the big thing is about the mediums. I'm interested in collaboration to experience creative friendships with people. And Kate and I met at a reading we did in Newport last year. And the chance of our meeting, and the chance of us both having worked in nightclubs, me as a doorman, believe it or not, and Kate as someone who served the drinks, was just an excuse to do it. I don't really see the medium of poetry as something that documents. In fact, people who write poetry is kind of emotional or reflects their life and documents their lives doesn't interest me at all. I'm interested in abstraction. Where Kate's medium as a photographer inherently has an element of documentation to it. So I think that I see our connection from previous experience in that world as just a chance excuse for us to create something together. And then after that, my role is to respond to the magic pictures, but also the conversations and the friendship that Kate creates. So my role, I think, is to refract that experience in language onto the walls and let Kate's pictures kind of speak to documentation, to the space more specifically. So actually, it's completely key that we both happened to meet the day last May, that we became friends, that we both had this experience, and they're the only reasons why that's the subject and the title of the exhibition, for me.
And you talked about an intensity of energy, so that's something that you felt you could language was using that energy from the photographs. How did you feel that each of the photographs had its own energy that was coming out of this world that you remember from being a doorman?
I think the thing is that all of our experiences in life, when they're translated into an artwork or a poem, people experience them differently. And I can't know how someone will respond to Kate's poems, to photographs, any more than I'll know how they'll respond to one of my poems. So I kind of don't even worry about my own biographical experience. I just want to respond in the strange, expressionistic way that we all do when we write anything, when we take a picture of anything. Who knows what's going on in that moment? Really, what I just wanted is a series of excuses and a series of experiences which were enjoyable. And that's what this is. It's all just an excuse to do something and be here now, to me. the specific energy of it is kind of as irrelevant and relevant as anything else that I've experienced in my life. But the images themselves, they gave me something that I responded to, but I don't know what was going on there.
So, did you think there's a kind of like the limits of poetry and photography? Like, how did the two kind of, how did you find kind of the two crossing or not crossing, or how did that?
So, I think photographs have a very interesting relationship with words anyway. I mean, in terms of, you know, each individual moment or photograph that's, you know, taken without academicalising it, whatever the word is. You know, it is literally that happened at that moment. And everything that is linked to it after that point has the potential to influence or, you know, define it. But what I found really, so it's something to be aware of, obviously, in terms of how images are used or what goes from there. But what I found quite liberating, I think, actually from this collaboration was the fact how that's actually the last thing that you're interested in doing, actually, to be honest. And just kind of building on it as a building block rather than saying this is what something is. So I found that quite freeing. I found it very enjoyable, and actually seeing when we were feeding back on what the stories were or what images kind of evoked, and seeing how it developed from there. That's a really lovely part of the process, I thought.
I think that's actually precisely why I wanted to collaborate with you, and why I love collaborating with photography, is because photography by its very nature captures a moment. It has certain elements to it which are very but language, when you work in a language art form, you use the same material that we talk about photographs in to make the artwork. Like a poet has to work both in language and then talk about the language in language too. So you're always stuck. And so if you just describe what goes on in a poem, you might as well just have a conversation or write an essay. Why bother writing a poem? But a photograph does something that a conversation doesn't do. So I need to be ambiguous. I need to make it open so everyone who reads it finishes its meaning. Whereas a photographer is capturing a moment in time. It's more fixed than that. So I think they bond together beautifully in that regard because they're doing different things. And this is why I think the exhibition is so nice, actually, for me to come today and see it. It's so beautiful because they're having a conversation that other people get to finish. And that's the best thing that you can have for it.
You want to come in and ask anything at that point?
Was the poem written in response to the printed photographs, or did you go around as a team at any point?
It was a bit of a tennis match, actually. So I wrote some poems based on our meeting last May and our conversations. We met a few times, and then Kate went out, took loads of beautiful photographs and sent me them, and I responded. So it was a consistent back and forth, but quite deliberately not cohesive at the same time, because you need your own space to build that world and allow these things to sit. Yeah, thank you.
How was it taking these sorts of pictures? I've only looked at these ones, I'm afraid. Is this something you've consulted or asked people, or is this you being discreet in a corner, or?
Yeah, just discreet in a corner, as long as that doesn't sound dodgy, that's fine. And it's kind of one of those things, walking around, again, and also for conversations we've had, is kind of where it's focused the attention of things that you wanted to photograph. But a lot of these are just kind of being in an environment and just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. There is something quite unpredictable and volatile, but also and a spectacle, but also quite beautiful about these environments, especially late at night, because you don't know what's going to happen, and for whatever reason, whether it's alcohol or personalities or anything like that, that you have to be quite responsive, but also savvy to what's going on. What I found is when I was photographing, I actually had to change my approach halfway through. I have a very lovely DSLR, which is my workhorse basically, camera. but I found that actually people's responses to that could be quite aggressive, and some fairly awkward moments of people coming up to you being like, "Oh, are you the club photographer?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just taking pictures of you for fun." You know, it doesn't go but either way, even if you are a girl. So yeah, so that was quite interesting. And actually, at that point, I then used a different camera and got less of the same responses, but much more, I think, sympathetic things. I mean, in terms of the edit, again, the edit that you see here reflects, you know, a fraction of the material that I took for this project. Whilst Steve wrote the poems in response to the photos that I sent him, as well as the conversations we were having, as much as the edit was ultimately up to me. I think once we kind of finalised what opened things down, just kind of memories, responses, I don't want to say emotion, but you know, things like that. So I enjoyed it. It had its own challenges, and quite happy. I'm looking forward to actually more. Actually, I think that's the plan. She says, for maybe you can film. So good. But yeah.
Okay, thanks. I think we'll leave it there then.
Are there any queries? Anything? I don't know. It's great that you haven't, if you've answered everything so thoroughly. But
Who chose the photos that you wanted to use?
I did.
Kate's in charge.
You had to write a poem to the photo that she...
I actually wrote the whole batch of everything that Kate had done, knowing that the way I work is not so specific documentation style. And then Kate had the final edit to pair and to create that body, which I really wanted, because it is not only where Kate lives, and also something close to Kate where it's more universal to me, but also because I really felt that she had her finger on the pulse of what was going on behind this exhibition in Newport. So yeah, I was really glad that she could make the pairings. Turned out that's made good choices.
I'm going to ask, because you've come from London,
Yeah.
have you found it a little bit of a challenge with these photos, putting the poets together?
No, not at all really. I think that's the thing, that there's so much that I've learned about what people might put into the identity of Newport that hadn't occurred to me when I've been here. Like my experience coming here was nothing but positive. I got to meet loads of people. We did a reading together last year who were hospitable and lovely and warm, and then our conversations, the thing I'm interested in is universal things and ideas that exist here and everywhere else. So I actually found it very, very easy, because all my experiences with Kate, as with the photographs and the people, have been really positive and open, and like it's very exciting for me to respond to someone else's great work. So I found it very easy. Thank you, President.
Well, I think it's London next, so we'll see what the...
Comes to London in July, so if anyone wants to visit, quite a cup of tea.
Okay.